The internet is split on driving in Costa Rica. Half of the posts you read say it's not a big deal, while the other half of people are warning against crazy roads, scams, confusing signs, and stories about getting lost in the jungle. So why do people disagree about this? Why do they feel so strongly about it? Should you rent a car and drive in Costa Rica? In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 6 essentials that every tourist should know before driving in Costa Rica to make it a totally seamless experience. We'll talk through the dangers, the navigation apps, and the most common Costa Rica road signs so you'll know exactly what you're looking at when you see them. We'll get started with the basics of driving in Costa Rica. Good news. I want to remove the biggest uncertainties for you immediately. If you're used to driving in the US or Canada, then driving in Costa Rica is going to feel pretty familiar to you. The wheel is on the left side of the car. You drive on the right side of the road. The road signs are in Spanish, but they're all familiar shapes. I'll walk you through the street signs that you need to know in just a minute. I'll show them to you and we'll talk through. Now, speed limits are in kilometers per hour, not miles per hour, but it doesn't really matter because the dashboard is also in kilometers per hour. Frankly, I don't care if it's in parsecs on the sign, as long as it's in parsecs on my dashboard too. In most cases, all you need to drive in Costa Rica is a valid driver's license from your country of residence and your passport, and you're all set. The driving age in Costa Rica is 18, not 16, but frankly that's not going to matter because in most cases a rental car company isn't going to rent you a car unless you're 21 or sometimes 25 anyway. So when we think about the basics of driving in Costa Rica, most of it is going to feel pretty familiar to you. But as familiar as things can be, there are still some dangers to avoid. So in our second essential that every tourist should know before driving in Costa Rica, let's talk about the dangers of driving in Costa Rica. I want to walk through some basic safety tips for driving in Costa Rica, and then we'll cover the most common road signs that you need to be familiar with. Let's talk about your valuables. This is more about when you've driven somewhere and are parking your vehicle. Don't leave your valuables sitting on the seat or in the back seat or on the dashboard. That's just mostly common sense, but it's good to say. The second danger of driving in Costa Rica would just be thinking about river crossings. Don't try to cross the river. If it's not obviously crossable, don't try to cross it. Maybe there's other people driving through and so you can clearly see that it's very shallow and it's not a big deal to drive through. Go for it. That's pretty common. But you just need to be careful not to cross a river just because the road goes through it doesn't mean that it's passable. This can be particularly true if you miss your turn because your navigation is planning to take you across the bridge. But if you miss your turn and it reroutes you for the next available road that goes across the river, that one might be a place that crosses through the river rather than going over it on a bridge. And during dry season, it might be totally passable. But depending upon when you're there, the river could be 10 feet deep and you shouldn't be trying to drive through it. The locals know that, but you don't. So you just need to be aware, be careful. We've had this happen to us where we had to literally drive our way backwards, back up the dirt road because we realized this road goes through the river, not over it. Driving after dark is another common mistake. There's nothing wrong with driving after dark. It's just safer not to. There's no street lights in most places. Sunrise and sunset are at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. In between those times, you're great to drive. You should probably plan to be back to your hotel or your resort before 6 p.m. in most cases. Don't be out driving around in the dark. Let's talk about traffic tickets. If you get a traffic ticket while you're driving around in Costa Rica, there's a couple of things that you should know. And the most important one is just this. You need to pay the traffic ticket before you leave the country. In fact, because of the tourist infrastructure in Costa Rica, they have it set up so that if you get a traffic ticket as a tourist in Costa Rica, you need to pay it at the rental car company when you return the car. So when you're returning your car, you need to tell the people at the counter, I got a traffic ticket. Here it is. I need to pay it. You need to take care of it when you drop the rental car off. Otherwise, when you get to the airport, they may not let you leave the country. And then don't speed and you won't get traffic tickets. Another one of the dangers of driving around in Costa Rica is just adjusting your expectations for travel time. A lot of the times you will pull out your phone, get directions to where you're going, and it says, oh, it's gonna take an hour and 26 minutes to get there. Great, and we'll leave at this time then. Okay, it might be that, a big truck carrying chickens has a flat tire and this is a 1-lane road and we're just waiting. And we don't know how long we're going to be waiting.
We've been waiting for 10 minutes already.
We've been here for 10 minutes. We busted out the snacks. Might as well enjoy the wait. I do have to pee really bad though.
Uh-oh. To be continued.
While he changes his tire, nobody can get around him because there's no shoulder for him to pull off. The side of the road is jungle, or the side of the road is ditch full of water. Everybody's just gonna have to sit there. You might as well get out of your car and help that guy change his tire. You'll be on your way faster. Sometimes there are just animals in the road and you can't go because there's cows in the way. Google Maps doesn't plan for that. Waze is not going to calculate for that. All this to say, just don't count on the time that your phone tells you it's going to take you to get there being an accurate time. In Costa Rica, that's just not realistic. This is important to talk about, not because it's the end of the world, not because it's a deal breaker, not because it's going to ruin your trip, but just because if you mentally prepare for the fact that that's just how it is, then you're able to adjust your expectations and it just makes the trip go a lot smoother. If you're not expecting that this is going to be 100% accurate, then when it's not, you're not freaked out, you're not upset, it's part of the adventure. Third essential, let's talk about the most common road signs in Costa Rica. Honestly, you're gonna feel a lot better after this because so many of these are so common and familiar, you barely need me to explain them to you. In most cases, all of the road signs in Costa Rica are gonna be in Spanish, but the shapes and the colors are gonna be familiar enough that even if you have no clue what the Spanish actually says, you'll probably know exactly what the road sign means. Let's start with the 5 most important and most common signs for you to know. The first is obviously a stop sign, Alto. Even if you don't know, Alto is the Spanish word for stop. This sign could literally say go, and you would know that this is a stop sign. The one thing to watch out for with stop signs is a lot of them, especially in small towns, are old. And they need to be replaced, but they haven't been. And so they are discolored. And as a result, it is not going to be red. Not only are they sometimes discolored, so the stop sign's not red, but sometimes they're very well hidden by telephone poles. So just pay close attention as you're coming up to intersections. The second sign is Ceda al Paso. This is a yield sign. Obviously, the triangle is a yield sign. This will often be the case at a bridge. Many times a 2-lane street will still only have a 1-lane bridge. Sometimes it'll actually be written on the street below you, Ceda, and you need to stop there and yield to oncoming traffic. And sometimes it's just the shape. It still means the same thing. This is a yield sign. No E stands for no estacionar. This is a no parking sign. And you'll see it sometimes like this. Sometimes it will just say no estacionar and have some arrows showing you can't park along this part of the road. Fourth common sign for you to be aware of is the speed limit sign. This is going to say velocidad máxima. Maximum velocity! Your maximum velocity is 40 kilometers per hour. The most common way to recognize the speed limit sign is it's going to be the circle with the number in it. Sometimes it will say velocidad máxima, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it literally just has a circle with the number in it. Fifth most common sign is the Puente Angosto sign. Literally just means narrow point, or this is gonna be a narrow bridge. The symbol kind of shows you this is a narrow point here. Even though the road is 2 ways, the bridge is 1 way. So only 1 way can be passing at a time. The most common thing when you come to a bridge like this is that everybody on one side all goes across at the same time, and then it's your turn. And so you just need to yield the way. Oftentimes you'll see the Puente Angosto sign along with a Ceda al Paso. Here are a few more you should know. Again, most of these are gonna appear pretty common to you even if you can't read them. Una via is a 1-way sign. Zona escolar, this is a school zone. You'll see this a lot of the time, especially as you're passing through smaller little towns and villages. Curva peligrosa is dangerous curves. Sometimes curvas peligrosas. Sometimes these dangerous curves are on hills and mountains, and so you want to be extremely cautious. The no U-turn sign is also pretty obvious. Calle sin salida is a dead end. Sometimes that sign will just look like this. Sometimes it looks like a T. This T is actually a road with a red line across it, and it's letting you know there's a dead end up ahead. Calle sin salida. Despacio means slow. You'll see these signs all over the place, sometimes coupled with our next sign, Cruce de Fauna, meaning animal crossing. You might also see Cruce de Animales. Either way, this is an animal crossing. It's just letting you know this is a place where animals run across the road. Watch out, be careful. There you go. Those are the most common street signs. If you know those, you're going to be able to get your way around Costa Rica. Fourth, let's talk about navigation tips. Understanding navigation in Costa Rica is important because oftentimes the addresses are really random. Your addresses can be something like 1 kilometer past the soccer field, And then in addition to that, it's in Spanish. Even some of the resorts, the address is something like 2 kilometers past the airstrip. This is where it's good just to have your navigation ready to go. Google Maps works extremely well in most places in Costa Rica. Waze is popular with locals, especially in San Jose. Waze is helpful with traffic and detours and things like that. Either way, download your offline maps ahead of time, you'll be good to go. Hopefully, again, this just reassures you that navigation in Costa Rica is not to be feared, but rather gives you some confidence that you got this, you can totally do this. Finally, let's talk about renting a car in Costa Rica. The main thing that confuses most travelers as it relates to renting a car in Costa Rica is the insurance. The TPL insurance, it's kind of a sticky wicket. For this reason, we made a full video explaining how to rent a car in Costa Rica. You can check that out here. That includes explaining the TPL coverage so you don't get confused or surprised by any of that. If this is your first trip to Costa Rica, then we have a whole series of videos on planning your first trip to Costa Rica. You can check out episode 1 in that series right here.